So wherever you are, whether it's in the VA or whether it's in your, so is your office actually at a juvenile detention?
No,
so
we're a family resource center.
Okay, it's Family Resource Center, or private practice, or wherever you are. How much freedom do you have to signal to your clients in certain ways? So if I'm going to, for example, when I'm working with students, I have a very international cluster. And so I dress like this when I need to do something like this, or when I have my other hat on and when I'm doing business meetings and things. But other times I dress differently. You know, like you can see how just a certain signal of something that's from another country can change the look a little bit, do a little bit of signaling. Or in my office, I have a big poster of African American inventors. This is one of the logos, symbols of the Human Rights Campaign for the LGBT community. And this is, I have a lot of African American art in my office. This happens to be Jacob Lawrence, and this is a symbol of Allah. You know, and I couldn't bring it all in, but I have lots of stuff all over my office. And what that is it's a way of signaling to people, whoever they are that come in, that in some way, you know, I'm open to who they are and that I value it. And so how do you guys do this in your offices? Do you have things like books or anything that is a signal?
Gifts.
Gifts.
Things that have always been gifts from people. Students.
Right, right. Can you say more about that?
I did my dissertation work in the Native community, so I have a lot of Native things. And,
perfect. Perfect.
They've all been gifts, earned gifts kind of things.
Yes, right.
Not stuff I bought. So that whole community recognizes these things.
Right, wonderful.
As gifts that you can't buy and all that. So it works real well with a whole portion of the community.
Right away, they walk in.
Immediate.
Yeah, and it's an immediate recognition that this is a safe place to be. Right, right. Julie?
Now, see, I do the opposite. My office is neutral. It's pretty, nothing that would signal anything to anybody. And so when they come in, they can bring whatever they want in that space to fill that space with them.
Oh, that's neat.
And
that's
so
neat. Yeah,
that's
right.
my position on that. Just
I should clarify, I've got two offices, one at school, the private office. So private office is the neutral.
So
it has to be the neutral one.
And absolutely,
so that's very different.
There's a whole school of thought about the neutral position.
Yeah,
so,
academia.
It's, and I think in private practice, it's really significant in terms of, especially when you think about it almost politically. If there's too much that indicates one way or the other, then you know, then you run the risk of going both directions. And so, you know, however I feel about things isn't necessarily how the whole world feels about things. And my job is to make sure everybody feels okay.
Yeah, and I keep myself out of my room because the only thing I have posted is my license I'm legally bound to have, but I don't have any photos or anything personal of my own in there because I want that space to be theirs in that moment. So
now, when you watch some of the multicultural counseling videos, there will be a different point of view there. There, you know, especially if you watch, say, Thomas Parham's culture videos, he will talk about the importance of some kind of self-disclosure. You know, I'll get your question in a second, and he talks about the importance of having certain African hero rights right there in the office with his client, and so very disclosing kinds of rituals to embrace the culture that's there with the client. Now, you have the freedom to be able to choose what fits with your therapist, you know, or your career counseling identity. Julie?
Yeah, I just want to say, just because the room's neutral, we do talk about it, and we talk about how their culture and how their worldview interplays with what's going
Absolutely.
on. So just because the room's neutral doesn't mean that we
Right.
don't talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there's no one way to go, and there's clearly different schools of thought on this. And the way that the way I think about in psychology, you can really get gnarled up in which school of thought you adhere to, and you get in there, and then when you get in that path of conflict, it's not clear where that goes. What I try and do is just know what I'm doing and why, and what are other ways that I could do it, and what would be the benefits, or what are the benefits and shortcomings of how I'm approaching it versus the benefits and shortcomings of the other, right? And clearly you're laying out some of the position of neutrality is welcoming to a lot more different types of worldviews can come in and can create the room, in the mind's eye for the client, and they can create who they need you to be in their mind's eye, and that's a real benefit of that. Multicultural psychologists would say that there's a certain signaling that needs to happen, and in that overrides the need for so there's all kinds of different points of view, and it's just knowing what you're doing and why.
So when you just said that, the question that pops in my head then is, are you putting the theory then, if you will, of multicultural counseling in the theory along with whether it's family systems or Jungian or object relations, or are you looking at multicultural counseling as something that occurs within those? Because what you just said there made me think that maybe you're looking at it as a theory, and I don't, which point of view you're coming from, and I don't know if that's what you meant. But
I look at my multicultural psychology as a field within the overall umbrella of psychology.
It's a specialty.
Right, specialty. And then I look at theories like identity theory, theory of in-group, out-group, or different things like that. So when I blend the field of multicultural psychology and career counseling, then I'm blending and psychoanalytic psychology. So then when I'm doing career counseling, I would then have to choose in some ways between some aspects of the blank slate from psychoanalytic psychology and the this kind of cultural signaling from multicultural psychology, and then I would choose what worked for me, and I'd know why, and I might be flexible about that, even given the client. I might have the room one day one way for one client and another way for another client, depending. I mean, that would be the ultimate flexibility that one might want to have. But it's really, that's where I think psychology and counseling gets interesting, because it gets so complex with so many choices that you can have based on how you begin to know someone.